From Korea to Germany. From Alaska to Puerto Rico. All over the world, the United States Army is on the alert to defend our country, you, the American people, against aggression. This is The Big Picture, an official television report to the nation from the United States Army. Now, to show you part of the big picture, here is Sergeant James Mansfield.
Today, The Big Picture takes you behind the scenes of the greatest feat of military construction since the end of World War II. A race against time and weather to build a giant air base in the Arctic. This is a story of Operation Blue Jay.
Greenland, mighty island in the far north, land of rugged mountains and everlasting cold, locked against the rest of the world by the frozen sea. Hidden behind these icy ramparts lies one of the great military secrets of our time, Operation Blue Jay. Here, where temperatures drop to 50 below zero and winds rise to 150 miles an hour gale force, where bright sun is abruptly succeeded by dense fog or blinding snow, American ingenuity and daring have built a new outpost in this country's defense, a giant air base on the top of the world. Now, at last, the story can be told. Blue Jay goes back to December 1950, when communist aggression was in full flood. It was on the offensive in Indochina. It was threatening the United Nations Army in Korea. And President Truman had proclaimed a national emergency. In Washington, a secret meeting took place in the office of the Chief of Engineers, Lieutenant General Lewis A. Pick, then a Major General. Present were Brigadier, now Major General Nold, Deputy Chief of Engineers, and some of the foremost construction experts in the country. Peter Kiewit, veteran builder of large dams and airfields. S.J. Groves, one of the builders of the Pennsylvania and New Jersey turnpikes. Joe Green, airfield construction expert. General Pick got right down to business.
I ask you gentlemen to come down here today to discuss a project which we have to build, to ask you to help the Corps of Engineers with this difficult job in the far north. This job lies about 900 miles north of the Arctic Circle, far beyond any of the shipping lanes. I understand that it may be possible to get boats into the area during a short season, probably from 4 to 6 weeks in the middle of the summer. This job must be built by the 1st of November. If that can be done, the construction industry and the Corps of Engineers will have broken the iced wastes of the far north.
The job was to build a giant air base for our largest long-range bombers high on the northwest coast of Greenland at a tiny settlement called Thulé. Built with the permission of the Danish government, the base would push our defense line 2,000 miles to the north. Blue Jay's strategic location was ideal, but its construction in 4 short months seemed impossible. The impossible, however, was just a challenge to American resourcefulness. Industry and the armed forces joined hands to put across Blue Jay on time. Industry developed new designs that would stand up to the severe strain imposed by the Arctic winter. Like these Clements panels, used for refrigerator walls, now adapted to buildings and hangars. Made of fireproof insulation, sandwiched between aluminum-covered plywood, this prefabricated building material was light, strong, and 100% reusable. More than 300,000 Clements panels were used at Blue Jay. Lumber, still the basic building material. Over 11 million board feet would be needed for housing and storage. Steel for these unique hangar trusses, braced to withstand the hurricane blast of polar blizzards. Steel for the water distillation plants and giant fuel tanks, Each tank required 200 tons. Everything had to meet the rigid specifications set down by the Corps of Engineers, whose inspectors checked every item of production and supply. Since Thulé had no port facilities, unloading docks were improvised from 8 old LSTs. These rusting hulks, neglected after World War II, were cleaned and patched up. Their superstructures were chopped off at deck level to provide a smooth, unobstructed dock surface. Now called dumb barges, they would be towed to Thulé and anchored there as permanent piers. Throughout the spring of 1951, a tidal wave of equipment rolled toward the great Army base at Norfolk, Virginia, the prime staging area for Blue Jay. 250,000 tons of cargo moved into Norfolk without a hitch, thanks to the teamwork between the Army's Transportation Corps and the American Association of Railroads. At the same time, 2,000 miles away at Rosemont, Minnesota, another procurement campaign was underway. Its objective, men. Here in the upper Midwest was to be found the greatest pool of labor experienced in cold weather construction. Rigorous performance tests eliminated all but the highest skilled applicants. New equipment was tested along with the workers' ability to handle it. Exhaustive work trials made sure that every man was thoroughly familiar with the job he had to do. Before leaving for the north, each man was given thorough instruction in Arctic survival. He learned the use of cold weather gear. And he was taught every trick of preventing accidents. An advance party of these men was sent to Thulé to prepare the job site for the main body, due to arrive by ship at the end of June. Sites for hangars and barracks, roads and quarries were staked out by the Deputy District Engineer for the Northeast District, Colonel Morton Solomon, and his staff. Temporary shelter was quickly put up. The Atwell hut, for example, a complete building, shipped as a single package. Simplicity of construction made the Atwell hut ideal for the speedy erection of temporary living and eating quarters, administration building, and hospital. Soil experts bored for samples into Thulé's frozen terrain to determine the nature of the ground. They found that everywhere below the top layer, a few scant feet under the surface, lay a bed of fossil ice and eternally frozen earth. A technique was developed to make this so-called permafrost support Blue Jay's many heavy buildings. The beach itself, meanwhile, was cleared of ice that would hamper the unloading. Dynamite was used to blast it into the bay. Back at Norfolk, supply yards were jammed with material by early May. Shovels, bulldozers, graders, rock crushers, asphalt plant, traxcavators, all were put aboard ship. Rolling stock and other heavy equipment was firmly braced and lashed. Trucks were waterproofed for the sea voyage to protect them against corrosion.